Ladies and gentlemen, this is Internet Personality Vangelis, and this is the finished version of the project that we all worked on at the TFcon 2015 Fan Media Panel, the crowd collaborative video review of SXS Overclocking with Reprolabels fully applied. Aside from this recorded intro audio, the rest of this is going to be using purely footage and audio taken from the panel recordings. If you haven't seen the panel, you really should watch that first, but I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. If you were at the panel, then I hope you enjoy this. Because whether you came up and spoke or just sat back and watched and hopefully applauded, there is very much a piece of you in this video.
It looks very sleek.
The detailing in the mold is very good and nice use of blue translucent plastic.
Everything about overclocking is raked backwards for speed, but he is a little thick and chunky for the sports car he's supposed to be.
Regardless, he is packing a plastic that is in a shade of blue bomber blue.
Alliteration! It looks like Blur.
Thank you. This is a vehicle that doesn't exist in real life. Yet.
Mine.
You don't want to cross
sexy. Dead sexy.
Why does this look like an F-Zero vehicle?
Gotta go fast.
So the first thing you do is take the shield off so you can lose it, just like the G1 toy.
He decompresses from vehicle mode and recompresses to robot mode nicely, but the use of parts forming tarnishes this otherwise really fun transformation.
It's amazing how an F-Zero type looking robot can go to being such a chunky and very impressive looking stature. That didn't Englishly work, but
If it helps at all, that happens to me constantly.
While not a dynamic head reveal, going from point A to point B is very fun.
During transformation, why is his head on a rope?
Good point. That is something about this toy's transformation that I thought was kind of keen and kind of weird, is it's on a stick, basically, that like, you split the backpack open so the stick can swing around here, and it like fake parts forms his head from here to his groin. And it's kind of like those VF1s, those Macross toys where they have little armatures that like move the legs to the nose cone rather than, you know, just taking them off and sticking them on. I don't know much about Macross. I just know Graham from Macross World put up a big ass video about the VF1s back in the day.
SXS decided to go for a spotlight blur design, except for the turbines being more than one. Although they did nail the Guido head. Nice job.
He's a bit square and blocky in his robot mode and doesn't look particularly fast, but the 4 giant jet turbines on his back probably mean he can zip across the battlefield pretty good.
His head isn't cartoon accurate, but I probably wouldn't spend $250 on an accurate head.
I guess you could say he turns into some kind of micro machine man.
Yes!
How do you follow that?
You can't.
The color separations on the figure is very well done. The use of clear plastic gives that glowing energon look pretty well. If you're a G1 Blur fan, this might not necessarily be for you, but if you like the IDW style, it definitely is something to take a look at.
For Blur's accessories, him having a claw seems a little more appropriate than him having a big bulky gun to weigh him down, but as fast as he is, it also makes the shield seem somewhat redundant.
It's dreamy. Good enough for me.
Is that twice now?
Yeah, there are huge fans out there.
Remember, rule of 3. SXS Blur has a very hard name to say because SXS are 3 letters that suck to say right after each other. Sorry, guys. Anyway. He's overclocking. Thank you. His head is on a ball joint, and it's got a whole lot of waggle, a whole lot of forward bag. He can do basically anything with that neck joint, and it's a real simple ball joint you can just pop right off. That does mean that if you want to get like a different Blur head sculpt, if for some reason you don't want this one, you want something that's maybe a bit more like Corn Howell or something like that. Corn Howell? Did I get it right? Corn Howell? Yeah, thank you. Then someone could make one of those and you could just like slap it right on there. As for his shoulders, there is a somewhat detented hinge here, partly for the transformation, but that gets the whole shoulder pod going up and down. It also can go forward and backwards. And then there's a joint in here, a ball socket joint of all things, connecting the bicep that allows some outward motion this way and a little bit of rock and creak in there. It's also the bicep swivel. There is a under the bicep swivel, right under the elbow hinge, which goes about that far and about just under 90 degrees. He's got a ball socket for his wrist, and his fingers do open, and they look pretty good when they're open. He's got kind of pointy fingers, so if he doesn't like another racer, someone's all like, hey, you could stand to lose a few pounds, you can just claw their eyes out. if he doesn't use his claw. He's got a waist swivel that's pretty much unimpeded, despite having lots of chunk here and lots of butt chunk down there. The thrusters are still, somewhat posable if you want to adjust them for his robot mode. His hips go forward and backwards enough. They can't go all the way back, they can't go all the way forwards, but maybe a little bit more forward motion would have been okay, but you would have had to engineer an entire separate swiveling gimmick into his skirt, and why bother, right? His outward motion is on a detent, and this is the bummer. So it's on a detent, and there are 3 clicks. 1, 2, 3. Now he's Van Damme out. Same on this side. So he can Van Daminate, but he's got Combiner Wars Optimus hips for the outward motion, and that's a super bummer. The upside is the gear is so soft, you can really easily just get him in between clicks, and it doesn't resist very much. So it's a lot more of an implied detent. Thus, it's a lot nicer than a clicky Combiner Wars Optimus detent. So it's not that big a problem, but at a first glance, it's like, it's an ongoing thing with not just like these toys or Combiner Wars toys, just like a lot of toys coming out lately, mostly official I admit, have this thing of there are not enough teeth in the gears. These gears are soft, not that big a deal. There's a thigh swivel that is unimpeded. There is a double jointed knee that's got an awesome range of curl given that there's all this bulk back here. So it's not faking it. The proportions are nice enough that you can really see the motion when it's bent. I really dig it. His feet are on a ball socket connection, so they can tilt, they can tap, they can do all that. He's real easy to stand. He's built real nice. Like, SXS originally released continuously variable, which by all accounts I never handled one. A lot of people said it felt like it was made out of soap bottles, and I've not heard much good about it as far as its build quality. This guy feels dead solid. Like some of you have been holding him. Doesn't feel creaky, he can take a backflip like that pretty well. I'm not going to throw him because there's no wall over there. Like maybe if I put the wall over here, I could do that. He can really take it. I don't want to throw him too much because he's got Reprolabels on him, and those were never meant to be thrown. But posability is good on this guy. I really like him.
Overall, I think they did a decent job getting this ready for production, for people to play with, or even just collectors who are just going to put it on in one pose.
It takes a few design liberties, but it aims to be a good IDW design blur toy, and in that I think it succeeds in having both a good-looking robot mode and vehicle mode, and an interesting transformation.
So I'm ignorant of all the IDW stuff. I will say that for being covered in Reprolabels, I don't really notice where those labels are. So the extra money to accurize it may not be something you want to spend.
Overall, I like the color. I can forgive the parts forming for the transformation, and G1 toy did the same thing, so if you're looking for G1-iness, then expect that. But if you're looking for IDW, and you don't expect that, happy shopping.
This is the blurriest blur that isn't named Blur.
That's true. I'm trying to work on the focus, I'm sorry.
It's a very well-sculpted figure. But as previously mentioned, there is too many panels and folding. SXS went a bit too fast with their production.
In the end, he looks like a pretty good rendition of Blur. And if that does the job for you, then the quote Blur, absolutely positive, we can get the job done faster than he can. Nobody.